Karunanayake, you can move the motion.
Yes, I move the private member's motion on the implementation of Iron White program to educate the masses in destroying waste materials such as polythene, plastic, etc. That this Parliament resolves that the Iron White program to educate the masses in destroying waste materials such as polythene, plastic to be implemented, since the usage of polythene and plastic material rapidly increased in the island and large-scale environmental pollution is taking place due to the indiscriminate disposal of such material. So the reason that such a private member's motion is being brought in is not that you can eradicate the usage of polythene, but the reduction of such polythene, which is highly non-destructible, would certainly help in order to reduce pollution in this country. As you know, sir, any place has wastage. It can be in a place, a city, a country, or even passing mentioned in passing. Even places like Parliament, there is enough wastage. All we want to do is to ensure the reduction of such thing takes place. Now, if you take the reduction, it only helps to reduce the pollution that is there. If I take Colombo Municipal Council as an example, sir, you would know that there is roughly 850 tons of waste material which comes out of the Colombo Municipal Council, which is only for 5 electorates that are there in Colombo, which has about 2.5 million people. Now, of this, 65% of this is supposed to be wet waste material, as well as 35% being dry. Of the 35% dry, I have been informed reliably by professionals who are in the recycling process that polythene accounts to almost 30 to 40% of this garbage that is there. So you look at least about 100 tons of polythene come into use. Now, this is the reason why, being responsible citizens, it is necessary to guide the people in this correct way. And such a private member's motion is only to bring awareness. We have a very active minister. I'm sure he has already embarked on this. Of course, that does not necessarily mean that laws by itself can bring the necessary problem under control. But awareness and, I think, deterrent effect will certainly bring this under control. So I'm sure your ministry would have done the needful, but I appreciate if you can bring more awareness programs that are coming. The TV that you all can use is an area which you can certainly reduce the people's unawareness on this type of things. Polythene has certainly reduced the cost of living, no question about it. But resultant factor is that while doing that, it has increased pollution. So that's a spin-off effect of both sides, reducing cost on one side, but on the other side it has increased cost for the recycling process. So on that note, I would appreciate if the ministry can take certain awareness programs that are there in the radio, state media. I'm sure that can play a very positive deterrent effect to the people concerned. And also the polythene, as you know, I'm informed, people like Al Gore, who has been fighting for global warming, in his address to world in various things, he has basically mentioned such polythene, which is a non-destructible wastage, which if utilized, not that it's non-destructible, it's difficult to destruct. And when you try to destruct that, it affects the ozone and global warming takes place. Now, here it is not something that what is done in Colombo will have an impact on the world by itself, but every country, every city puts its act together, then it will certainly have a safer world tomorrow. Now, that is the concept which I thought it was the necessity to bring such a private member's motion and solicit the assistance of the government in order to make this known and ensure that goes forward. If you look at, Honorable Sir, if you look at the country by itself, you would see that a lot of areas where earlier things were done by paper is done by polythene. I think one of the biggest offenders are the political parties themselves. But I'm sure the political parties have realized this, and over the last couple of years, they have changed it back into a more user-friendly or more ozone-friendly items are back again. Unfortunately, the cost factor is a prohibitive factor in doing such reversal activities. So the government must look at these type of things and give tax breaks where required, because recyclable paper or recyclable polythene is not all that cheap. So all I want to do is not to take too much time in trying to labor the point, because I'm sure I'm only trying to preach to the converted. But Honorable Minister, I'm sure your ministry can play a much more proactive role from the younger generation. You have Mr. S.P. Dissanayake today, who is doing a ferocious change in attitude from the higher university, which I appreciate. So likewise, you can do something from the lower grade, where people will inculcate in their thinking. This is the way forward, so that then they are also held responsible to as world citizens or as citizens of the nation, and ensure that that inculcation will help them to make a more safer world for tomorrow. Honorable Minister, sometime you might come out with a question, sir, where how do you collect the money? I thought of linking one particular area which will help in order to ensure that such revenues are obtained. If I know resources are not all that easy, but I mean, you look at Golf Face Hotel, and that's how Golf Face grounds, and that's how I basically thought of this idea. Look at the polythene that is collected in one particular evening. Now, just in front of that, you have got the land which was there for the army that was sold out to the Shangri-La. Now, Shangri-La comes into the country, maybe a flagship company comes into the country. Now, there was tax of 100% that was enforced on such a company. But today, that company is exempted from paying that 100% tax in Sri Lanka. Now, that exemption is 6.75 billion. Now, 6.75 billion, if collected, you could say, okay, flagship company, ensure you pay X amount for environmental activities. So that could be a way that you could generate, and I'm sure you can take this idea up in the Cabinet of Ministers and ensure that if revenues are difficult to obtain, that this is the way that you could probably get from companies that are exempted when the law shows that they should be paying. 6.75 billion is not a small amount. It certainly can be utilized for the betterment of the country's activities where money is starving to be obtained. Now, furthermore, when you look at this, it only provoked me to think in the areas of obtaining this. I just received the booklet that came in from annual reports of 2010, and in this particular process I was seeing where the revenues of this sale has been taking place. But I don't see the revenues being booked into the accounts of Sri Lanka. Now, every country has a balance sheet, every country has a profit and loss, and on that basis you have revenues that are coming in and revenues and the costs that are expended. Now, when you look at the book that tables for fiscal responsibility, it is necessary to come up with this. I don't see the money that has come in from the sale of land to Shangri-La coming into the accounts of Sri Lanka. So I pose the question through, as we parliamentarians are held responsible under Article 150 of the Constitution for public probity on financial matters, to ensure how such monies that have come in are not booked into the accounts. Because 6.75 billion only of Shangri-La company. What about Kinetic company, which is another Hong Kong company, which bought another 5 acres which was close by, accumulating to 11 billion. So tax exemptions is 11 billion. 11 billion is 11,000 million rupees. Now, if this is not accounted, there is something absolutely wrong that is there in the system. Now, you would wonder as to why I am venturing out from polythene into accounting, but I am only trying to bring you money into the system if you don't have money in your ministry. So I am only digressing from that area to say that if by chance you are counted with the factor that you don't have money, this is the way you can tell the Cabinet of Ministers of how you can collect money for your activities that are there. So I don't want to take too much time. I hope this House unanimously resolves that the acceptance of trying to educate, inculcate, and to ensure that each citizen plays a role for reducing global warming, and we, little Sri Lanka, also play our role in the world that is there. So I put it to the House to ensure that we get unanimous resolution for this, and I hope the Ministry carries this project before too long. Mr. Swaminathan.
Thank you, Honourable.